Hi everyone and welcome to Priority Holder. Today we're going to be doing another Dominaria United sealed event. Let's see what we open. Okay, this is the kind of thing you like to see when you open for sealed. So multiple rares in the same color. We got the Cruelty of Gix, Strong Saga with 3 different cool modes you could choose from. Valorant Veteran, that's medium but fine card. Joyra, just not really supported in this set. Defiler of Flesh, fine, rare, decent. Not unhappy to see that. Voldalian Hexcatcher is just not really supported. And Braids, Arisen Nightmare. So none of the super insane rares, but multiple in the same color is a great sign. So already we're paying strong attention to like the black cards that we've opened. Okay, so we got 1 copy of Banalish Sleeper, and just looking at what else we got from white. Resolute Reinforcements, that soldier rare. Let's see, 2 copies of Citizen's Rest, Love Song of Night and Day, Stall for Time, Griffin Protector. So Argivian Phalanx. So some decent support and removal in white. Blue is just looking sort of shallow. We have a couple negates, 1 Essence Scatter, Drake, Geyser. So Talus Lookout, like it's fine, but it's just pretty shallow. Bone Splinters. So black is what we're really paying attention to, because we know we have all these rares sitting in black already. And there's our Braids, a couple Eerie Soul Tenders, and Phyrexian Rager, just a great role player. Shadow Prophecy, strong. We got an Extinguish the Light, Phyrexian Warhorse. So it already looks like a lock that we're going to play black, but for due diligence, we're going to keep looking at everything else. Look at the red cards. We have like 1 removal spell and then like a bunch of medium creatures. The sagas don't really do that much. We just got like a ton of like Thrill Possibilities and Yosha Declares War, which are just not that great. So red is pretty much just out. Like I said, this is what you want to see in sealed. You want to see your power concentrated in few colors if possible. Now green has some more stuff going on. It has some ramp spells, has some beefier creatures. We didn't really get any like the green fight spells or punch spells, so that's not great. And now we get to check out like our multicolored cards. And importantly, our lands, because the lands can make a lot of interesting things possible. So we did get a Crystal Grotto, which can go in basically anything you want to splash colors into. But pretty quickly, I realized that it should be building black-white. Blue wasn't impressive, red wasn't impressive, and it seems like the white cards we have are very complementary to the black cards we have, because we got some like removal and some powerhouse things in black. And just checking, so we have 8 creatures, 4 non-creatures thus far. We do have a black-white land and our Aeron as a black-white uncommon, so like we have those things going for us as well. Checking creature types for that Soldier Lord that we have. Doesn't seem like it's going to be super relevant, but Resolute Reinforcements works with it. That could be like a real huge blowout. You have the Lord in play and you play instant speed, 2 mana for 2 2/2s could be really strong. Yeah, at this point just mulling over the white cards. Now I'm not sure at this point I'd had much exposure to Argivian Phalanx. I really like it a lot now. I can't remember if I actually included it in this build though. 2 Griffin Protectors. So just checking, basically putting all the cards like I'm fine with playing and like want to play. So Aeron is good. That's going in there, and you could see like just sort of putting the ones that I'm okay with and actively wanting to play. We just hit like a clean 40. Like this seems like a pretty straightforward sealed build. So we end up just going with that, and let's jump into the games. Alright, so normally I have to mull around with like 5 different builds, or especially in this format with all these multicolored lands you end up with, but this just seemed like a very clear black-white build. So we are jumping right into it, and a slow hand but a strong hand. Like Phyrexian Rager's great, and you know, a lot of 4 mana cards. Warhorse can be a 5 mana card, so that's going to be its role in this hand. But opponent is not putting us under any pressure yet, so we're happy to see that. Alright, Eerie Soul Tender's just fine. Alright, so they play Cultivator. And I want to attack. I figured they'll probably block if they see Defiler of Flesh. So we play it post-combat, that way they don't block. And next turn, we can possibly start granting Menace and really make their life difficult. So that was an instance where I wanted to incentivize them not blocking. Okay, Elfhame Worm is a problem, but wow, we just drew Cruelty of Gix. And wow, is that could be amazing, because we're going to get to strip their hand of their best card and give our Phyrexian Rager Menace off our Defiler trigger. This is me like contemplating, do I want Phyrexian Warhorse or Cruelty of Gix? And I figured this early in the game, there's a good chance we could still take something great out of their hand. So yeah, use the Defiler trigger on our Rager. Definitely start at chapter 1. And they have the Bog Badger, yeah, checking their mana colors. End up taking that just in case they end up getting it for value later. But send them with the attackers. We are going to get smacked by the worm right here and lose 3 life on the next Saga chapter. So that's unfortunate. They had the fight spell to cut down our Defiler Flesh. So we fall to 12, and we're going to immediately lose 3 life. So opponent is trying to put us like under the gun here. Now here's the question: is what card do we grab? Unfortunately, our hand is like fairly clunky with like expensive stuff. I was considering like trying to get like a Bone Splinters to try and like be more mana efficient here, because we really want to take out that worm. We don't care about anything else they have. We want to take down the worm. And I grab, even though it's not like the most ideal thing, I grab Citizen's Rest because we see we have the Urborg card in hand to get the worm back from the graveyard, so exiling it is like a huge deal here. Milling 3 lands was a best possible situation right there because we have plenty of mana, so that was basically like a Surveil 3 or Scry 3 right there. Alright, Shieldred's Reclamation brings back a 3/2, but at the cost of some life, so no attacks. Drawing removal spell is great, and here we go getting to just reanimate our Defiler of Flesh. So maybe could have cast Warhorse to get more things menaced. Decided just to play it safe and see what happens. So the opponent just trades off for Soul Tender, and we do a post-combat Warhorse. There was something to be said for playing Griffin Protector just to like pressure them in the air, and also it being Warhorse being a strong follow-up to a Griffin Protector. But this is a little more mana efficient. Alright, so opponent has Bite Down. And that's really strong here because that's a punch spell, so our Defiler's getting cut down, and they still have their Death Toucher. So this has been a great game. Like, we've each had strong plays, and still going right now. So opponent sets up the block, and you know, we just do the obvious play of sacrificing the 1/1 to try and grow our Warhorse above the Badger. And like, a pump spell could be trouble for us. Okay, so opponent has the Destroy Evil. So we had our removal up in case they pumped theirs, but Destroy Evil's fine. Like, we're not happy to lose our creature, but that's a low priority card for us. So we're happy to see a high priority removal being used on a low priority card of ours. So sending Griffin Protector. Definitely not going to block here. There's a lot of things that can blow out that combat. Okay. Now playing things pre-combat, of course, to trigger the Griffin Protector. So straight up no blocks to the opponent. They're having to hope that we don't really have much so they can try and kill us. We're only at 6, so I like that no block from them right there, trying to make sure they have enough options to make something happen. But instead of running out the Griffin, because there's some crazy combat tricks in this format that could make us lose, holding up the removal spell just to make sure that we don't die out of nowhere this turn when we're pretty far ahead. So I know exactly what's in their hand, know that they can't beat us here, and yeah, so they see it as well and they concede. So it's nice to lock up that first win, and this is a really strong hand. We have a clean 2-3-4 setup if we can get the lands. And there's the land. So I play out the Goblin first because that can get through 3 toughness creatures with its dying trigger. Opponent has Semi-Herbalist. Attack in. Opponent doesn't block because they can attack and gain some life. Have to make sure we play the white source here if we want to play Aaron, because otherwise would not have been able to cast it. So opponent attacks in. Now there's different ways to read this. Like, it could be like they have a trick, and they'd like us to block, or they're desperate to try and scry into lands or something, and that's why they attack. So opted not to block there. Now trying to figure out how to navigate this. Our Goblin makes it really nice here with their 2/1 toughness creatures. Like, they just really can't block right there. And now we're going to make it even less likely that they block with Defiler of Flesh. So already we're in a great position. Yeah, game over. So some very quick games so far. Thankfully have a white source to cast our 2-mana creature. Double white from the opponent. And we play the Root Weaver as our most expendable creature, so no play from the opponent. I mean, that happens sometimes. Sealed decks are a lot more clunky than draft decks on average. But this allows us just to run out Braids. So we could sack something here, but it seems like board presence is more important at this point. Yeah, so Captain's Call sort of stops us from really attacking profitably. Considering sending Braids, maybe they'll do the triple block. Maybe they'll be too scared to, like there. So they know like any removal or combat trick from us could blow out like the whole play. It allows us just to unload our hand and decide to actually sack here because we get a lot of value. They opt not to sacrifice a creature, but we kill one with our Goblin anyway. And so that just reduces their options a bit more. I'm very happy to see land number 5 for the Cruelty of Gix. So the Angel's great here because it holds off all of our attackers, but Cruelty of Gix is just going to be really rough for them right here. And yeah, that's it. So we didn't even get to see. So I might have been underestimating that card because, and maybe some of the other ones we opened, because we are just annihilating people. Maybe we're catching all of our opponents on a bad day or something. I don't know, but no one wants to mess around with these rares we're playing. But they have a rare for themselves on their side, the Llanowar Loam Speaker. We just have regular 2/2. Alright, so they search for a land. Now we have options here. We can play Phyrexian Rager, or we could play Sleeper. Decide to, or also we have, well, we don't have Iron Mana yet, so I decided to put them to the test here. So they opted not to block, which to me was an indication that they sort of want to prioritize that creature. Maybe they need the mana. So that's what pushed me to use Banal Sleeper here, is the fact they did not block. That they wanted to preserve that creature. So I don't know if it was the right call, but that was the logic there. No plays at 5 mana open in a green deck, so that was sort of strange. We're not going to attack into their 1/1 with our 3/1. Okay, so the opponent was just holding up Terra Sunder and takes down the Griffin Protector. So they get the pump spell mode of the Weatherseed Treaty right here. And they're going to attack us. It's fine with us. We want to attack in with the 3/1 anyway. We prefer not to block it. The opponent has cut down. Okay, so still has 5 mana open. And we get our 5th mana. And, like, even though it's better to play out the Griffins first, just much more mana efficient to play Warhorse at this moment in time. The Griffins will be good even if they're not getting like tons of extra triggers. And we want to be more mana efficient here, because if we draw a bunch of lands, we'll keep being able to double spell by like having some cheaper spells in hand. So this seems like a pretty clear solo Warhorse attack. If they double block, we sack the token, and if they try and pump spell, we blow out the combat with the removal spell. So opponent just appears to chump block with the sap rolling. And so the growth here, we could use a removal spell on it, or we could simply sack our token to trade with the sap rolling. And I opted for that. The Warhorse isn't like super important, and using that removal spell on the sap rolling seems pretty bad. Like, you can run into a lot of nasty things in Sealed. Like, if they play like, I don't know, like a 7/7 or something this turn, we really wish we had the removal. So opt for that line. And so opponent plays Braids, fight for a turn, sacrificing a creature to make us discard. Phyrexian Rager is great, but I feel like our other cards are stronger at this point in time. Alright, land is sort of annoying there. But the opponent doesn't really have anything going. Making sure I understand Braids, fight for a turn. I have just not been impressed with that card. As someone who loves like black sort of sacrifice decks, that card just does not seem good. Cost seem a little too high for what it does for you. Now they are going to get a creature back right here, so they get their Loam Speaker back. And it's summoning sick, otherwise they would have been able to like animate the land there. So we play, once again, creature pre-combat to trigger Griffin Protector. And Aeron has Menace, so we can smack them down to 9, and we're feeling pretty cozy here with our removal spell in hand, Extinguish the Light, so... But yeah, now we have this, we can sacrifice a non-token, but we like our board presence here, so we just let them take the card. So we see another color appear from the opponent, so it means they're more strongly on the domain strategy. So they end up animating a land and sending in, so it seems like an extremely aggressive line from them, like expecting a strong follow-up, but they just don't cast anything, because I mean, we have 3 attackers, they're at 9, they're anyway, it seemed like a very aggressive line from the opponent. So we knock them down to 2. Go ahead and play our land. Like, there are discard spells, but we would just play our removal in response. Okay, so they animate the land, and the... Alright, so they play the the creature, they put a counter on there. I'm expecting, like, is there like a giant pump spell combo they can try and do? Attack in. Play land, pass to us. And yeah, they gave us the good game. It seems like they just ran out of gas. On to the next one. Alright, so strong hand, especially like if the creatures stick, the Phalanx is going to be coming down pretty soon. Just running up Vanilla Sleeper might get cut down by removal here. It's just a strong threat that just must be dealt with, or it's going to smack in for a lot of damage in the early game. So they play the Keldon Strike team. Drawing that removal is really nice. This seems like a strong turn to play a Phyrexian Rager. We'll actually end up playing a Soul Tender. Mill 2 lands and a Griffin Protector, so we don't care. We're happy to trade here, or for like a combat trick. Okay, so opponent missed the land drop, notably, so we want to keep the pressure on. So play Rager here, and pass back to them. Okay, so they find a land, but it's a tap land. Now, Essence Scatter could really keep them in this one, so I contemplate tossing out two 2/2s as well. Decide to go there because Essence Scatter can really help them get back into it if they counter our 5/5, for example. So I end up going with the 2/2s route. Now, Weatherside Treaty, that's not a good defensive card, so it'll help. But it's not going to be great against what we have going on. So they have a Neshoba Brawler, which is strong. And our mana's lining up really awkward. Like, double spelling right here could crack the game right open. So, opt to use the more expensive spell. Plus, we get the little bit of life gain. But we are able to knock them down to 12 with our army of 2/2s. Alright, there's Tolarian Terran. So that's why you use the expensive removal earlier on, because this is going to allow us to lock up the Serpent with the Citizen's Rest, since we can pay through its ward. So it's annoying we can't double spell once again, but opponent's in big trouble here because, you know, they could chump, but excellent block. So they take it, they fall to 6, and you know, what do you do here? They get the huge pump from the Weatherseed Treaty. Do you attack and not defend? So they have one removal for our creature, and they have Codex, and they can't even attack off the pump spell. So Weatherseed Treaty is a decent card, but it's not always good. So it seems like we have them on the ropes. The question is, do we like completely empty our hand, possibly playing into a Wrath, but decide to really try and slam the door, and it works. Part of the reason was we had Soul Tender in the graveyard, that's why we went so aggro. Keep the hand with Soul Tenders and some swamps. Would like a Plains at some point. So hand's developing, but it's a little clunky, and then the Nightmare scenario unfolds. They have Anointed Peacekeeper, and they're going to get to look at our hand and name something, and it's going to be taxed by 2 mana. Guess what they're going to name when looking at our hand? Eerie Soul Tender. When we first played, I actually didn't realize they got to look at our hand. I thought it was just like an amazing soul read or a Soul Tender read on their part, but yeah, they, with one card, locked us out of the game. And it was already not going incredibly well for us. Like, playing a 3/3 there to block the 3/1 would have been excellent. So basically, it was just the Nightmare scenario for us. Playing Warhorse here because it's more mana efficient, and hoping to it's less a priority than Braid, so hoping to trade that off for the 3/3 or something. But we're so incredibly behind and can't like deploy anything We don't even have the option of like Soul Tender plus Bone Splinters. But now the flyers are piling up on the other side, and we just can't cast anything. So just a single anointed Peacekeeper and no planes just took care of us real nice. Now here's an interesting choice. I ended up sacrificing the planes, just desperation, but they sense the desperation, so they sacrifice the land in response. They want to deny us the card draw. They don't want us to get away out of this. And they keep back the Peacekeeper because they know that's locking up most of our hand. And so we draw another huge card, and it's just looking really grim. And now that land sack is looking pretty bad because we could have maybe Bone Splinters away the Peacekeeper with our braids. Anyway, it's just the flyers are going to kill us. So it's just one of those games that worked out incredibly poorly. On to the next one. This hand looks a lot better. We'll be needing a second black, or else Braids and Cruelty of Gix aren't going to be cast. Now we play the Goblin or the Sleeper. Opt for Goblin because Goblin could still attack through X3s, and the Sleeper could help us, you know, with its Edict ability later on. So here Goblin can still attack through the Salvage Mana Worker. And the question is, do we just play a 3-1 or do we force them to sack the Mana Worker? And it's a good question. I end up deciding to kick it after all. There's a reason for that, because Salvage Mana Worker does a lot of work in making bad mana bases function. Or most mana bases are bad and limited anyway, so I figured it was actually a decent way to like shut them. Like maybe they're base green and they're hoping the Mana Worker is going to carry them, and so that was my rationale. So we'll see if it ends up paying off. Not only that, but the 1/3 can block the 3/1 anyway. So it was us using our choice to try and deny them some choice. Now we're not going to go into land sacking mode here because we have Cruelty of Gix. So Shadow Prophecy is the kind of thing we like to see from the opponent because it loses them some life. It doesn't contribute to the board. You know, they have a handful of cards, but they're facing 6 power on board already, and we're going to strip their hand next turn anyway. So opponent's in a tough spot, and we're hoping that we've wrecked their mana by getting rid of the Salvage Mana Worker. Okay, so opponent does have a Lightning Strike. And they have a strong card, the Sleeper Agent. And we're going to offer up the trade here because their card's stronger than ours, and we have them under pressure, so we'd like them just to get rid of it. And then we have some good things happening right now with Cruelty of Gix, so definitely start on Chapter 1. Let's see what they got going on. Opponent has 2 strong creatures, Tolarian Terror and the red-blue legend. I'm trying to figure out what to take. Najal has like upside with like the spell shenanigans, but Terror is just a real pain to deal with the ward, so I end up taking that. Not only that, but we would like to reanimate the Terror on our side with Cruelty of Gix. So now we get the tutor ability. We're going to be losing 3 life. Considering getting like a small creature here to try and Bone Splinters their thing down, and then maybe still have enough mana to play our creature, but it didn't actually really work out. We're like 1 mana short to do something like that. So just use Citizen's Arrest and wait until we can play the 5/5 Death Touch. No plays from the opponent, and we get to bring something back. The Evolved Sleeper is tempting. We don't have a ton of black men at the moment. End up just going with the Tolarian Terrace. It's just going to be a pain for them. And we play our Writhing Necromass. And so that's the risk of reanimating one of their creatures, is they bounced it to their hand, and so now they got it back. So that is the risk of taking something from their graveyard. So they cycle away their timing interference, play their terror. So we know they have bone splinters, but they're not going to want to sacrifice their terror. They want to stack something more expendable. And we have our own bone splinters and something expendable. And plenty of mana to pay the ward. Wanting to make sure the auto tap doesn't get us and prevent us from playing Eerie Soul Tender. We get to smack them for 5, play Soul Tender. Alright, Soul Tender's real nice here because if they kill it, we just use it to get something back. And yeah, that was it. Worked pretty nicely there. Now the hand is not ideal, but it's one you keep every time. We got removal. We do happen to have a lot of our double color spells. Thankfully, with that land draw, we will be casting Aaron next turn. And we're not far away from Warhorse. Braids, however, is not there yet. Hoping this isn't an Essence Scatter. It is. Now you see why I'm so scared of Essence Scatter, because it seems like they always have it. Rager's a good draw here. Essence Scatter would be tough because we would like some card draw off this. And they have it, so. We really wanted that to try and fish up a land. Braids is stranded. So every card in our hand is stranded right now. Okay, so we draw that, and we're going to definitely cast Warhorse. We can't kick it, but we want to try and make something happen. So, opponent then plays Erte, Resurrected. So they're going to counter it, but we get to draw a card as a consolation prize. Finally find the second black source. So we're fairly happy with that exchange. I mean, the opponents stopped everything we've been doing, but they honestly haven't done anything to us thus far. We're going to get smacked for 3 here, but now their Black Knight is going to be annoying because we have a little bit of life gain. It's going to shut it down. So trying to figure out what to do. Play Braids, play the Griffin. It's more mana efficient at this point to play Griffin. Like if we draw a land, then we can double spell with Citizen's Arrest, Braids next turn. So that's why you play the Griffin here. Alright, so opponent has timely interference. And it's functionally a removal spell here because they kicked it, and so it's going to force us to block. We can't block the menace creature, so we have to put it under the 3/2. Yeah, so it's unfortunate, and so that timely interference is going to kill our creature in forced combat. But our life total is still reasonably high. Okay, so the mana situation still is just a little rough. Once again, trying to play out the more expensive spells. And we could play Braids. Anyway, decide to play Braids here. Just to try and get on board. We have a lot of removal, we just can't really like leverage it. It's all sort of clunky with all of our mana's developed. Decline to sack. So opponents had sort of like a controlled, lot of removal. Alright, timely interference. So they're forcing the block, but it's going to be a trade at this point, which we're probably going to do anyway at this point to try and stay alive. So not unhappy about that. Don't care if Erte's... We don't care if Braids dies at this point. So we draw a land and just run up the Phalanx, hoping there's not an Essence Scatter. Okay, so they have a Protect and Negotiators. Yes, opponents on the counters and removal plan. They're not killing us very quickly, though Knight can help them turn the corner quickly because it has like the pump ability. Interestingly, they tapped them out of black right here with the Sea Scavenger. Probably would have been useful for the pump ability, but who knows what they have in their hand that the auto tapper's thinking about. So we have removal spells. We can't really double spell any of them, though, until now. So decide just to try and alleviate all the pressure. So extinguish the light on the Black Knight because that unlocks the life gain mode. And do we play the removal spell? Do we not? Opt to wait for a better target. Maybe should have just played it though with how little we have going on. Opponent plays Phyrexian Vivisector. And we end up taking 3 here and sort of regretting not playing the Citizen's Arrest last turn. Especially this land draw here. We could have been at 3 higher life, which would have just given us more time to draw out of it. So use it now, but we need something to happen. This Bone Splinters is looking pretty sad in our hands. Sea Scavenger. Seeing the second one made me really regret not snapping off the removal on the first one right away. Opponent gets to set up their library a little bit. Citizen's Arrest, so we get to lock down the second one. Once again, love to draw any sort of creature, something to start blocking. And Walking Bulwark is a problem because, okay, so they opt not to, but they could have animated itself to put us down to 2. Griffin Protector, not ideal at all. And they have another Essence Scatter, so opponent has Essence Scatter Tribal over there. And yeah, this time they realize they can activate the Walking Bulwark. And yeah, so this game, I'm not sure if there's much we could have done differently. We just had really awkward mana, like, and just clunky draw. But on to the next one. So we have picked up 2 losses, so any other loss ends the run. Now, if we don't draw a 2-mana creature, do we play Soul Tender or Phyrexian Rager? Tap land there is fine because I'm not playing anything that turn anyway. Opponent hastes out a 1/1, so they're trying to go under the clunky, slow sealed decks. Throw a possibility, pitching a Hammer Hand. And we're just not under a lot of pressure, and we can play Aeron here. Decide to play Phyrexian Rager to attempt to trade with their Viashino. Because they can, use the natural pump ability on the Viashino to get through the Rager or to trade with it. But the opponent just plays the Flowstone Kavu. And what do we play? We have a few things. Decide just to play Eerie Soul Tender. The reason for that is if we mill some creatures, we can discount our 5/5 Death Touch, but did not mill any creatures actually. So we see a new color emerge for the opponent, and they play the 3/3 Goblin with Menace. So they attack in with definitely no tricks, and we're very happy to take this trade here. They get to pick which creature they kill, but they're both very expendable. Now the 3/3 could get nasty, so it does seem like a fairly good one to Bone Splinters down. Like if they get too many goblins or get some mana going. So decide to cash in the removal here. And especially because we could still follow up with a nice play of Griffin Protector. Tap land from the opponent. They attack in. We're definitely not going to block. Like, we're fine with them using their whole turn to pump it by 2 power. So they're thinking about it. Opponent thinks for a while. Makes you wonder what they have going on in their hands. And then, wow, we see a Johnny Sleeper agent all of a sudden. So that was very unexpected.
Don't resist.
And they even use the Phyrexian mana mode of it, so they are able to put a 5/5 trample into their hand, but it just seems like a waste of a planeswalker. Like it's at such low loyalty right now. It's just sort of a confusing play. Seems like it would have been, maybe they just don't have any creatures in hand, like to defend it or something. But yeah, we just going to attempt to just take it down with the Griffin, but it doesn't seem like there's anything they could do about it. The one single red mana spell I could think of is Flowstone Infusion, and it gives it +2, -2, which wouldn't do anything. So it's sort of a bizarre play from the opponent, but we're very happy to take down a Johnny just with a single attack. So opponent's thinking about what to do. And I think they realize they can and the opponent pumps at first, sends in the attack. We're definitely not going to block. And I think they must have miscounted their mana. I think they're hoping to pump again and then cast their 5/5 trample at a huge discount. I think they needed one more mana to do that play. So I think it just unfolded poorly for them. I think the mana got miscounted. But yeah, with that slip up, we're just going to slam on in, try and end this game. Another Griffin Protector is huge here. Like, they have no flyers, and they're going to be able to just at least grow next turn with Aaron coming down. So there's a lot of damage coming the opponent's way. So now they play their 5/5 trample, but it's the misstep on last turn makes it real tough for them. And decide to take this opportunity to snag the Hellion here under removal. You know, they could have traded with our 5/5, but now we denied them that trade, and that's it. So, and wow, what a great run. And this doesn't often happen to me, but we hit 7-2 and sealed. So it was just a great deck. It was not mysterious to build. You know, all of our good cards are in black and white. Well, definitely black. The secondary color was up for grabs, but with the two Citizen's Arrests, like the Griffin Protectors, it seemed the way to go. But yeah, very strong deck. Very impressed with Cruelty of Gix. So anyways, thank you for watching, and have a wonderful day.